All right, so this is the second episode of Rematch. Rematch is a show where I take works of art that I've read or watched before, but didn't really get or didn't like, and I take a second attempt to get or like it, understand it. So, because when I watch an acclaimed movie or read an acclaimed book and I don't like it, I assume it's my fault. I try to cultivate a growth mindset with regard to my taste in art. So in this one, we've got the Great Gatsby, and so I was supposed to read this in high school. Um, and yeah, I didn't. So I was assigned it in 11th grade. Didn't read it. Then eventually I read it. I read it at 19, and just didn't really get much out of it. But yeah, back then my taste wasn't really. I think my taste is a little more refined now. So hopefully I'll like it this time. Um, Yeah, because like recently I read Ernest Hemingway's Movable Feast, and he talks about reading The Great Gatsby for the first time. I think before it was even published. And Movable Feast is a memoir, not a novel. It's a memoir about his time in Paris, and a lot of lost generation people make an appearance. Ezra Pound, F. Scott Fitzgerald. I think James Joyce makes an appearance. But Ernest Hemingway talks about The Great Gatsby, and he was just like wowed by it. And I trust, I like The Old Man of the Sea a good amount. I definitely trust Ernest Hemingway. Well, I say trust because I feel like when you're young and you're reading all these books, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just projecting, but I feel like I almost like imagined like some kind of conspiracy of like no, these books are being propped up just by smug people. It's not, they're just making it up. It's not actually a good book. I don't know. There's like this conspiracy mindset, but so Ernest Hemingway loved it. That's a sign that it should be taken seriously. I believe Gore Vidal, who he was a critic, and he he was a literary critic, and a very harsh one at that. He did not like he did not like most of F. Scott Fitzgerald's books, but he did say, well, he wrote one perfect book, The Great Gatsby. he said it as if that it wasn't that impressive to write one perfect book. But so Gore Vidal, who basically made it his business to like hate, like he hated on Hemingway, he hated like a lot of, basically made it his business to hate on like acclaimed authors. He still loved The Great Gatsby and said it was perfect. Also, I think there was a top 10 list at one point where basically a bunch of authors submitted their top tens. Um, and The Great Gatsby was on it. I believe the books on the list, I'm not sure the exact order. I think it was Anna Karenina, Madame Bovary, War and Peace, Hamlet, The Great Gatsby, Lolita, Chekhov's stories, In Search of Lost Time. Middlemarch was on there. And the ninth one escapes me. But but yeah, so Great Gatsby, definitely something to be taken seriously. Because yeah, it was on that list that all the authors voted on. So we got the list of authors: Hemingway, Gore Vidal. So that's a lot of people who take this book pretty seriously. Why didn't I like it at 19? I don't know. It's I liked some good books at 19. But at 18 I read the Brothers Karamazov. I loved the Brothers Karamazov, but I think a lot of that was because the Brothers Karamazov's like a pretty solid, like, mystery novel in its own right. So that's why I like that. Also, I feel like at 19, I pretty much didn't like any work of art that didn't have like a happy ending. It was a very strange blind spot in my taste. Like I really didn't like, if something didn't have a happy ending, I wasn't necessarily a fan of it. So and but the Great Gatsby's nice and short. So this should we're looking at 180 pages, not even 200. We're below 200. One more, I guess one more credential. I think the modern library, which is a list of the top 100 book. I think it's a couple constraints here. Top 100 English language books. Um, Top 100 English language books of the 20th century. That on that one, Ulysses was number one, and Great Gatsby was number two. By the way, I have read Ulysses, and that one is definitely another one that's going to need a rematch because as impressive as this is, I understood that one even less than I understood The Great Gatsby. So I have a couple friends who like this book too. So if I read it again and I if I read it again and I lose again, losing the rematch would be like not liking the book. Then I got a couple people I could talk to maybe, set me straight. But all right, so I'll see you in, I guess, maybe a week or so. We'll see. Thank you. All right, so I finished reading The Great Gatsby today, and I think the comedian Rodney Dangerfield said it best.
Mr. Mellon, how would you characterize The Great Gatsby?
Who, him?
No, you.
Me. Well, the Great Gatsby, he was, great.
Yeah, Great Gatsby was really amazing, and my goal I think was like I definitely wanted it to be top 100. Haven't written out my top 100 in a while, but I think I think it's definitely there. It's always partly you can't really separate your impression of the book with from your impression of the book's reputation. So I think between those two, it's top 100. I don't, but my impression is like some of the writing was I mean probably all the writing was phenomenal, but first two pages I'm just gonna read them because I don't think it gets a whole lot better than the first two pages of this book. um in my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. A little bit of irony there, I think, because there are many many scumbags in this book who have had the advantages that he's had, and more advantages. So back to the he didn't say any more, but we've always been unusually communicative in a reserved way, and I understood that he meant a great deal more than that. In consequence, I'm inclined to reserve all judgments, a habit that has opened up many curious natures to me and also made me a victim of not a few veteran bores. As adjective noun combos go, veteran bore is great. It's not the best. I think the best of all time is still Whoreson Zed from King Lear. That is Whoreson. That's the first word, and then Zed. Whoreson Zed. It's I forget the exact quote, but he's talking about the letter Z there. Horse and Zed. That's the best adjective noun combination ever. But veteran bore is that's great. That's great. And I relate to this a little bit. I feel like I'm not a very judgmental person, so I do feel like I see closer to people's real natures than most people. But maybe we're all meant to relate to Nick Carraway, so maybe I'm wrong here. But the abnormal mind is quick to detect and attach itself to this quality when it appears in a normal person. And so it came about that in college I was unjustly accused of being a politician because I was privy to the secret griefs of wild, unknown men. Most of the confidences were unsought. Frequently I have feigned sleep, preoccupation, or a hostile levity when I realized by some unmistakable sign that an intimate revelation was quivering on the horizon. For the intimate revelations of young men, or at least the terms in which they express them, are usually plagiaristic and marred by obvious suppressions. Reserving judgments is a matter of infinite hope. I am still a little afraid of missing something if I forget that, as my father snobbishly suggested, and I snobbishly repeat, a sense of the fundamental decencies is parceled out unequally at birth. Love that last bit. A sense of the fundamental decencies is parceled out unequally at birth. And after boasting this way of my tolerance, I come to the admission that it has its limit, that it has a limit. That's a start of the next paragraph. Great transitional first sentence. Conduct may be founded on the hard rock or the wet marshes, but after a certain point, I don't care what it's founded on. When I came back from the East last autumn, I felt that I wanted the world to be in uniform and at a sort of moral attention forever. Moral attention. That's another nice adjective noun pair there. And what yeah, that's a great we hit a semicolon there, but that's a great sentence. I wanted no more riotous excursions with privileged glimpses into the human heart. Only Gatsby, the man who gives his name to this book, was exempt from my reaction. Gatsby, who represented everything for which I have unaffected scorn. Unaffected scorn. Yeah, that's another great. That's because you don't think of scorn as being affected, but it can be unaffected scorn. I love that too. If personality is an unbroken series of successful gestures. Now, I'll read the whole sentence. Okay. If personality is an unbroken series of successful gestures, then there was something gorgeous about him, some heightened sensitivity to the promises of life, as if he were related to one of those intricate machines that register earthquakes 10,000 miles away. What I love about this sentence is like you could take just like this piece of the sentence. You could just have like personality is an unbroken series of successful gestures. That alone could be like that's a great sentence, very solid. Personality is a series is an unbroken series of successful gestures. That's just very interesting. But he just goes, if personality is an unbroken series of successful gestures. So he takes that and he just kind of he glances over it. No big deal. No big deal on that great sentence that I've just embedded into this longer sentence. That's good. Okay. This responsiveness had nothing to do with that flabby impressionability which is dignified under the name of the creative temperament. It was an extraordinary gift for hope, a romantic readiness such as I have never found in any other person, and which it is not likely I shall ever find again. No, Gatsby turned out all right at the end. It is what preyed on Gatsby, what foul dust floated in the wake of his dreams, that temporarily closed out my interest in the abortive sorrows and short-winded elations of men. Abortive sorrows. I'm gonna have to come back to that one. I'm not sure what he means by that right now. I think I'd have to get another look at the word abortive. Yeah, so that looks good. Yeah, the writing is really amazing. If I'm putting like the story aside and I'm just rating books on the writing, um I might go like it might be top 10 written books of the English language. Though I will say it is only 180 pages. I mean, that's almost like a cheat, like that's almost like a cheat code because it's it's easier to do 180 pages of great writing than like, 800 pages as Dickens has been wont to do. But yeah, I think it would be probably top 10 written books of the English language. It's as I say, I think Gore Vidal called it a perfect book, and it definitely feels, at least writing wise, very perfect. There's more excerpts I'd like to read here. I forget what page. There's the famous quote. I think I'm paraphrasing here, but I do remember one where, like, so everyone suspects himself of one of the cardinal virtues, and then he goes on to say that he's honest. He considers himself honest. But I love the phrase everyone suspects himself of one of the cardinal virtues, because if there's one thing I love, it's understatement, and that's definitely understatement because people people do not just suspect themselves of one of the cardinal virtues. They are sure that they have many of the cardinal virtues. Suspects himself is definitely understatement there. So I love that. Um, I have a friend who actually wrote a musical based on The Great Gatsby, so I've been sending quotes to him. Let's see. The supercilious assumption was that on Sunday afternoon I had nothing better to do. Yeah, what? It's a great one. There was an immediately perceptible vitality about her, as if the nerves of her body were continually smoldering. Smoldering. What a word. That's great. This one, this one's just kind of funny. I have been drunk just twice in my life, and the second time was that afternoon. I like a sentence where you like don't know what the point is right away, and then there's a big reveal. So that's kind of a fun one. Her eyebrows had been plucked and then drawn on again at a more rakish angle, but the efforts of nature. That's a that's a very very interesting phrase there. Efforts of nature, as if nature is this conscious being making efforts to. But the efforts of nature toward the restoration of the old alignment gave a blurred air to her face. Here's another one. Most affectations conceal something eventually, even though they don't in the beginning. That's great. So he invented just the sort of Jay Gatsby that a 17-year-old boy would be likely to invent, and to this conception he was faithful to the end. That's another great one. Here's a crazy one because basically yeah, spoiler alert here, but uh, there's a character named Daisy that Gatsby's in love with, who he had an affair with, um, who he had been with, I guess 6 years ago or so. Now she's married to Tom Buchanan. Um, he wanted nothing less of Daisy than that she could than that she should go to Tom and say, "I never loved you." That's nothing less. That's great. Oh, yeah. I sent my friend this text, and actually the next sentence. So these are two sentences. He wanted nothing less of Daisy than that she should go to Tom and say, "I never loved you." After she had obliterated 4 years with that sentence, they could decide upon the more practical measures to be taken. Wow, yeah, that's just like very funny. Very like that's a very to me that's a very funny sentence. Oh, here's one that hits me hard. I wouldn't ask too much of her, I ventured. You can't repeat the past. Can't repeat the past, he cried incredulously. Why, of course you can. Yeah, I've definitely, I've made some attempts to repeat the past, myself. Yeah, with sometimes you have a great memory of something, but it's that, you can't repeat it. You can't, particularly. Mine's like stupid, but like for me, like repeating the past is like getting drunk at Universal Studios, which was like amazing one time, but definitely excessive to do more than once. I've done it quite a few times, so that's the there's a lower class Floridian Gatsby in me, and yeah, no, lots of good stuff. So it's it's interesting. The Gatsby, any high school book. So Great Gatsby's. I consider that like a high school book, not like a knock, but it's just a book that a lot of people were supposed to read in high school, and a lot of people did read in high school. I was supposed to read it. I did not read it. Then I read it when I was 19. Didn't really get it this time. Yeah, at least like the writing is first class, and terms of the story, and I'm giving it what I call like the summary test. And the summary test is not the be all end all, but like is a summary of the book interesting to listen to. Um, and like a good example, like Jorge Luis Borges, my favorite author, he writes a lot of his short stories are reviews slash summaries of books that do not exist because his attitude was why write a 500-page book when you can get it across in a 5-page review. So he's written like a lot of summaries that of stories that would pass the summary test if they existed. um for me, like Great Gatsby doesn't really like I don't think there's anything like particularly interesting about a summary of the events in the Great Gatsby. Maybe I'll have to, get around to that, and maybe I'll, there's gonna be I'm gonna read this again. And actually I didn't know this, but it is kind of a July 4th book. So I was reading it around July 4th. Um in the book, Daisy is driving the car and runs over um Tom, her husband's mistress, Myrtle Wilson. There is something about like a coincidence like that that doesn't like just at the story level doesn't necessarily resonate with me. Um like I could be swayed on that. This is just like my impression. So like like the plot now, like the plot has like good very good themes. I love like the basically I think the big theme is trying to relive the past. Also, when is it ever enough? Jay Gatsby does like if he got Daisy, would he even be happy? Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms farther, and one fine morning, so we beat on boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Yeah, that union of the future and the past is interesting. So, but yeah, the big thing I came away with was how good the writing is. I think there's definitely some some themes that I think it's like I get it, but I don't completely get it. I could still put it in my top 100, no pretense, but I think eventually I'll have to read it again, which is it's interesting. I guess yeah, maybe that's just going to be the conclusion of all of these episodes because it was the same for Blue Velvet. you know, I liked it. I got it more than I did the last time, but I'll have to watch it again eventually. Yeah, same with the Great Gatsby because I think like there are like story elements where I'm still a little bit what's the point of this? Maybe not every story needs to have a moral, but I am a big Aesop's Fable fan, so I do like I like stories to have a moral. And Aesop's Fable, it's like Aesop's fables, they're really short, very concise. Actually, the Aesop's fables definitely top 100 books for me, and that's a great book to read on your phone, because each short story is like a paragraph or so. You can read it in a waiting room. So like Aesop's fables are essentially like they're short enough to be they're all essentially summaries because like they're just really just micro. Those Aesop's fables were flash fiction before flash fiction was a thing. So Aesop's fables, every story in Aesop's fables is interesting. Like I mean, well, the tortoise and the hare, the boy who cried wolf, those are from Aesop's fables. Um, there's one about like I know one of them was a frog. I think it's a frog and a rat. Like they like each other so much that they tie a string between them, and the frog goes underwater and drowns the rat, and then like the rat's body floats up to the water, and an eagle like grabs the rat, and then the frog dies too. So I think that's I think that's how it goes. I think that's a very interesting story. So like all of it, Aesop's fables, Greek Ovid's Metamorphosis. These are like very interesting stories with like sort of an obvious moral. Some stories are like that, like Great Gatsby. I think just there are some events in the story where I don't know how they connect to the themes. Like I can't like place the ending like thematically with the rest of the book. Um, so that that might I think that's probably on me. So I think I definitely gotta give it another read in a year or two. But top 100, that's easy. Yeah, that's an easy one. So we're at least like I couldn't have said top 100 before. And here's a phrase I'm going to be using a lot. I before my second read, I had not earned the right to put Great Gatsby in my top 100. Now I think I have. But now it's interesting. Like it's I've never heard anyone brag about reading The Great Gatsby, but I think it is a brag-worthy book. I think it is. It's real. It's definitely it's great. It's as Rodney said, it's great. So thank you. This has been Rematch. Thank you so much. Have a have a have a good night. Happy 4th of July. Happy 4th of July, old sports. No, it's not the 4th of July. It's the 14th of July. But 10 days ago was the 4th of July, and 10 days ago was the 4th of July, so we beat on boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. 10 days ago, 4th of July. This ending has been a train wreck. That's okay. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Thank you all so much.